Hi everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the second half of May and the full moon that we have coming up in Scorpio on the 18th. But firstly, I just want to spend a moment talking about Saturn and Pluto that are both now retrograde. They recently both went retrograde and they'll stay retrograde, Saturn till late September and Pluto until early October. And whenever planets go retrograde, they really want us to turn inwards, to contemplate their planetary symbolism. So Pluto is the planet of power, Saturn is the planet of control. So this is a very good time over the next few months to really think about not only how power and control is used in society, but where your own location of power and control lies in your personal life. Do you feel that you're being controlled, or some kind of external personal body organization is controlling and dominating your life, or are you very much in control? Do you have this central sense of creating your own reality, this inner radio dial that's very good to visualize, because that is the actual center of where you're creating from. So it's going to be very helpful for us to think about this, because if, for instance, you're still ruminating, thinking about some hurt or anger from the past around a parent or a partner or a friend, are we still feeling angry or resentful or rejected or abandoned, or whatever the emotion is? If we're still locked into those negative emotions from the past, we can't create a new future, because we live in a vibrational universe. The universe responds to whatever frequency we're putting out. So it's really important to release those emotions, and I'll be coming on to this in a moment, in order that we have space to bring in the new. And it's really helpful. I check in all day, many times a day. What's my frequency? Am I living in love? Am I living in gratitude? Am I living in appreciation? Even stick post-it notes on your bathroom mirror, on your fridge, on your kitchen cupboard. What's my frequency? Where am I at? Because so often we can go unconscious and we can just go on to automatic pilot of thinking about that partner that hurt us so much and rejected us, etc. But for as long as we're doing that, we are going to attract more of the same kind of behavior from the outside. So if you're on that kind of a run with your thinking and your emotions, take a moment out, stare into a flower. Watch the birds building nests in the trees. Watch the trees swaying in the wind. Any tiny, simple thing that you can appreciate. In the second half of May, we have 4 planets in Taurus, that wonderful sign of the earth and nature. We have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Uranus. So just take those moments just to raise your frequency, and you can do it very quickly. And you start to become a witness, an observer of where you're at in terms of your emotions, because we have to clear out the old. We have to get onto a new frequency to bring in the benefits of the new. And we have to become real masters of our frequency. And these are very simple ways to do this. There are other ways. You can meditate, you can watch your breath, you can candle gaze. There are many ways we can do it. We can do body work with Qigong or yoga. But it's being very aware of what you're broadcasting as a frequency all through your day. Because this is really in order for us to bring in the new paradigm, we're experiencing many wonderful high-level energies coming onto the earth at this time, but we can't benefit if we're stuck in density. The other important thing to say about Pluto and Uranus particularly, Pluto is in Capricorn right now, a cardinal earth sign, and Capricorn very much represents the status quo, what has been up to now, the status quo, very much in terms of the structure of society too. Uranus is in Taurus. Taurus represents wanting to keep things as they are. It is very much the sign of the earth and nature and beauty, but it's fixed earth that wants to keep things as they are. So both of these earth signs represent permanence in terms of security. Up to now in our lifetimes, very often the thing to have in terms of security was a home for life or a job for life or long-term trends in society that we felt were our security and we could rely on. Well, with Pluto, planet of deep fundamental change and transformation moving through Capricorn, and Uranus, planet of sudden radical change and awakening moving through Taurus, we are going to be called on to make changes in our life, particularly in those areas where we may feel very attached to those things that represent long-term security. Now, see where 3 to 4 degrees of Taurus falls in your chart. That's where Uranus is right now. See which house it falls in. Is it falling in your 4th house of the home or your 6th house of work and daily habits? Also see where 20 to 23 degrees of Capricorn is falling in your chart. Which house is it falling in? Because again, there's going to be some deep fundamental change likely over the coming years. I'm not just talking about the next couple of weeks. We're talking about long-term trends here. But the areas of life of your life that are calling for change. Because we are shifting gradually. These outer planets are going to be shifting from Earth into air. And Earth, as I say, is represented this quality of materialism, permanent solidity, bricks and mortar, that sort of thing. Now, December 2020, Jupiter and Saturn move from Capricorn into Aquarius, air sign. Pluto in 2023 starts to move into Aquarius as well from Capricorn, air sign. 2025, Uranus moves from Taurus, earth sign, into Gemini, air sign. So we're going to have this gradual shift away from heaviness, permanence, long-term commitments into something much, much lighter, ideas, information. So when things are changing outwardly, our instinct is always to kind of hunker down and hang on to what we've got. But we are being called to free up some of those attachments, depending on which houses those planets fall in your chart. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out this link above. You can get a free birth chart from my website, pamgregory.com, and this link will take you to my store to get a 2-part video series that will explain this to you and what this means for you in your life. But the music has to play. So if we don't make those changes consciously, very often the change will come from the outside. And it's going to be very exciting to step into these new energies and into the unknown to some extent. I mean, we're stepping into the way reality forms in a quantum sense, because we're stepping off that cliff into something that's much freer. We could be having a series of very different experiences. We could be experimenting with different lifestyles or even different ways of living. Shared experiences, communal experiences are going to become more important over those coming years. So as I say, I'm not just talking about the next 2 weeks, I'm talking about the next several years and the trends, because the music must play in terms of those planetary energies. So as I say, just watch and observe your frequency through the day, and we start to become the witness. We start to separate ourselves. We step back from our thinking. We step back from our emotions. And that in itself is very helpful to allow us to step into the new. Now, the other thing to say about Saturn and Pluto together in Capricorn, sometimes this gets a hard rap, but it is really about getting what you've earned. Saturn particularly, getting what you've earned. With Saturn and Pluto, things are never easy, they're never lucky. They come as a result of hard work, long-term commitments. And it's interesting, I've known many people who have, say, Saturn-Pluto conjunction in their 2nd house right now. It's very productive. They are actually getting more money in because they've put the work in to receive that income. So it can actually really be a culmination of the decisions you've made and the work you've put in. You get what you earn. It can also give us tremendous focus. So wherever Saturn and Pluto are moving through your chart, 20 to 23 of Capricorn, you can give great focus for a project and whatever we're working on. Now, Mars is out of bounds, continuing all month. It doesn't go back into normal declination until the 12th of June. And as I mentioned in the last video, any planet that is out of bounds beyond the normal 23 degrees of declination can express in a more extreme way. So Mars is in Gemini up until the 16th of May, and then it moves into Cancer. So while it's in Gemini, our thinking may be sharper. Our minds may be sharper. We may be very quick in our writing, quick on the uptake. We may be a little too sharp with our words, so beware of that. When it moves into Cancer, it can make our emotions feel exaggerated or more extreme. And I'll come back to that in just a moment when I'm getting into the detail of the full moon. But we have our full moon on the 18th of May at 2:11 p.m. Pacific and 10:11 p.m. UK time. And this is happening at 27 degrees and 38 minutes of Scorpio. Now, a full moon, see where this falls in your chart. A full moon is always about a culmination, an ending, a closure. It can often reveal things that you weren't aware of before. And particularly with Scorpio, it's about secrets. It can very often reveal secrets you were not aware of, or we as a world were not aware of, as a society we're not aware of, because it goes deep. So a full moon, as I say, is always a time when this can happen, but particularly in Scorpio. So because it's ruled by Pluto, these can be secrets to do with powerful people, secrets of their financial affairs, very much connected to Pluto, taxes, any fraudulent activity. It can be a sexual crime. Pluto also, in its ruler of Scorpio, is connected to sexual crime as well. So it'll be interesting to see what's coming out, what's being revealed at this time. Now, this could be a very psychic time as well, because Scorpio is the most one of the most sensitive, well, they're all sensitive water signs, but one of the most intense. It's the most intense water sign. So it's very sensitive, but it's very powerful and penetrating. It has brilliant intuition, brilliant insight to get to the core of the matter. And at this full moon, this is an excellent time to release emotions which have been repressed, which have been stuffed down for a very long time, to bring them to the surface and let them go. Now, as I say, full moons are always a great time to do this, any full moon, but because it's in Scorpio and because it's ruled by Pluto and because Pluto is retrograde right now, and we have this need to release the old emotional patterns, the way we've always been, to allow the new to come in. This can be a really transformational full moon. It can be a magical, almost alchemical full moon, because we can use it to shift our frequency in the ways that I was just talking about a moment ago, to really say enough of these negative emotional patterns that are not helping me to move forward. End of. So, and we're going to start a whole new paradigm, which this full moon plays a very large part in. So just be very aware of the power of this full moon in Scorpio. Now, Mars, as I say, is still out of bounds until the 12th of June. At this full moon, it is actually on the world axis. It's at 1 degree of Cancer. And that means when a planet is on the world axis, it tends to be thrown out onto the public stage in a bigger way. So something Martian, as it were, something that's assertive or even aggressive could be thrown out onto the world stage. But it's also a feeling, because it's in Cancer, of either feeling vulnerable ourselves or wanting to protect the vulnerable in society. And indeed, the North Node moving through Cancer for the next year or so is also, that has a long-term message of we must protect the vulnerable, or those at the lower echelons of society. We live in a very unequal society in the Western world, those who need to be cared for. Because this message is really reinforced at this time by Mars in Cancer square to Chiron in Aries. Do I matter? Is the feeling here. So again, a feeling of protecting yourself or protecting others who feel that way. So it's a really lovely caring aspect that comes in here too. Now, Saturn and Pluto continue very long term in Capricorn in conjunction, and they are about, in relationship, they are about security, long-term security and stability. However, we have Venus in exact conjunction to Uranus at this full moon at 3 degrees of Taurus. And this is much more a message of I need freedom. I don't want to be boxed in. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to be controlled. So we have this slight clash between, if you're in a relationship and 3 degrees of Taurus is sensitive in your chart, it's in your 5th house, your 7th house, or the aspect in the rulers of your 5th or 7th, then there could be this urge to feel freer. And that will be, is it freedom? Is it stability and security? In addition to that, Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn continue in this long-term square, this very, very important square to Eris in Aries, because this happens very infrequently, only once every almost 400 years. So when it happens, it stays exact for a long time and it drills down and is very important. Eris is the planetoid of discord, and we're seeing this really, really clearly. We've seen it recently in Venezuela, this revolutionary urge coming up from the street. We're certainly seeing it in France right now, ongoing, and yet there is top-down, strong-arm government repression. It's really clear to see writ large in several countries right now. So that's going to continue. And again, at the full moon, feelings run high. Feelings of inequality, we need to protect the weakest in society, are coming to the fore in a very big way. And Jupiter is also trine to that, to Eris at this full moon, so it's expanding the revolutionary fervour and putting that revolutionary fervour in a bigger picture of meaning as well. So intense feelings at this full moon for sure, but really do think about playing your part in this paradigm shift. I'm sure you're all aware of it. Lots has been written about this on social media, about these new energies coming into the earth and how we can benefit from them. Neptune long-term in Pisces is about just merging with something greater than ourselves. There's a spiritual impetus to merge with a greater spiritual good. It's idealistic, it's transcendent. Neptune is square to Jupiter until October. So there's this surge of, I want to move to a better reality than this. And that can help to shift the collective consciousness as well. Finally, the last 2 days of May, on the 30th, we have the moon in Aries square to Pluto, and then the following day we have the moon conjunct Uranus in Taurus. So both of those days, the emotions could be quite extreme and quite impulsive and quite reactive. So be very mindful those couple of days that you don't react too quickly to things which you then regret. So always take a breath if you're aware of those energies on those days, and remember to step back. So a wonderful, magical, transformational full moon potentially, things being revealed personally and collectively for us, but a great opportunity for an upgrade in our frequency, because as I say, the universe doesn't respond to willpower, the universe responds to frequency. So if you can master your frequency, you're not only altering your own reality, but you're adding that to the collective consciousness in terms of an upgrade too. Play with it, experiment with it, decide for one day you are going to change your energy, and just watch, because if you change your frequency to something more loving, something more appreciative, something you're more grateful for, every relationship around you will change because you've changed, so the dynamics of every relationship will change. If you didn't get respect for people, there's a slight shift if you do it for a day or so. You do it longer term and you notice how the way people react to you changes very significantly, and you start to see how the game plays out for you, because that's really how it works. Hope you've enjoyed me talking about this full moon in Scorpio, and thanks so much for listening. If you'd like more information about my books, my tutorial videos, my very long monthly newsletter where I go into much more detail about some of these subjects, just check out my website, pamgregory.com. And as I say, thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.